Alrighty, welcome back again. So far, your game should look like this. Now, if your game looks like this and your islands are moving, I'm not sure if you've got one of each type or two or three and reappearing randomly at the top of the screen, then you're ready for this tutorial. We're going to be making the plane move left and right. The first thing we need to do is obviously create an object for our plane. We've got a sprite for our my plane, but we don't have an object. So we've got an image, but it's not going to be able to do anything until we turn it into an object. So I want you to choose sprite my plane, call it object underscore my plane. And what I need you to do is under object my plane is just set the depth minus 100. So remember our islands were at 10,000, so minus 100 is definitely in front. So our plane's definitely going to be flying in front of that. Now we need to make two events. We're going to make a left event and a right event. Now we've used the create event and the step event, but I'm pretty sure you haven't used the keyboard event yet. So what you do is you click on the keyboard event and we click on the left. Now what that's saying is that obviously when we press the left on our keyboard, a certain action is going to happen. So we need to put that action in. Now, just like we were talking about with the islands and a bit of a grid, you should have had a bit of a tutorial on the whiteboard about how the whole grid system works, but we need to add ourselves a variable like we did with the island. Now, our variable isn't the y-axis like it was with the islands, it's the x-axis, so left to right. And what we're saying is that if x is larger than 40, what that means is, so we type in, I want you to do this as well, variable x, value 40, operation is larger than. What we're saying is, if the plane is at a value that is bigger than 40, so larger than, we're going to let it move to the left. Now just to try and help you explain, it's a bit hard to understand, and if you don't, that's okay. But this is our room. Now, as you can see, remember this is x and y. Wherever I put my cursor, those numbers change. So over here we've got x is 0. As we get further, the numbers increase. So if our plane is anywhere where my cursor is, if you look at x, that number is larger than 40. So 304 is larger than 40. 112 is larger than 40. So what we're saying is, if the plane's at this position, or at 304, we'll let it move to the left. But if it's not larger than 40, so if it's here, and it's x at 32, we don't want the plane moving any more left because it will just disappear out of the screen. So the idea is if the plane is anywhere over this side, we'll let it move to the left. But if it gets too close to the wall, we don't want it to move to the left anymore because it'll just look fake and disappear out of the screen. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense for you. So remember, this is a rule that we've got a variable, but if that rule is yes, so if the plane is further enough across, we want it to do something. So we want to use the jump to a given position, drag it in, and I want you to type in -4 for x, leave y at 0, and tick the relative box. So what we're saying is, if this rule occurs, so the plane's somewhere on the right hand side of the screen, we want it to move 4 spots to the left for every second that we hold down the left keyboard key. We don't want it to move on the y-axis because otherwise it wouldn't really be moving left. So we have -4. If you had that at -10, it would move really fast. If you had it at -2, it'd move really slow. And the minus just means to the left. If it was on 4, like +4, that would mean it would move to, you guessed it, the right. So minus means left, plus means right. So in terms of moving in a given position, and the relative box means it's going to move relative to where it is at that current time. So we click OK. So what I need you to do now is, I guess we can test it. So we go into our room. Our room's got our islands but doesn't have our plane in it yet. So we left click and we get our plane coming up, and we just click our plane somewhere there in the center. Now what we've told to do is if it's larger than 40, so anywhere on this side of the screen, that it will move to the left. So click the green tick, press play, and see what happens. Now as you can see, my plane does move to the left when I hold it down, but when it gets close to that wall at 40, it doesn't move any more left, which is a good thing because then it doesn't go out of the screen. Now when I press right, up or down, nothing actually happens because obviously I haven't set any commands for it. So what we need to do now is go back into Object MyPlane and just create an event for right. And we're going to do something very similar to what we've done for left, but just type in a few of the opposite values for it. So we go keyboard, right, and just like left and right, we need to have these two actions. Now what you can actually do is just sometimes it helps you if you need to duplicate, you can actually shift and click and copy those actions. And then in here you can paste them. It just saves you time sometimes finding them and dragging them across, or you might need to have some objects that have all got the same thing, so a bunch of enemies that all do the same thing but they're all different names. It saves you pulling them out and bringing them across. You can just copy and paste them. So that's what I've done there, but obviously these variables and all these values are wrong. So what we need to do is the left one is right, but this one needs to be changed. So in your variable, our variable is still x, so the x-axis, but our value is slightly different now. Our value is room underscore width minus 40. And so all we're saying there is almost the opposite, because we're talking about the plane moving from the left-hand side of the screen to the right. And this little bit of code says if the room size, so which is 640 pixels from left to right, take 40 off. So if it's less than, so we need to change this to smaller than. If it's smaller than that number, so smaller than 600, we will let the plane move to the right. So just to try and help you, I know it's tricky and you might not understand, but that's cool. What we need to do is I'll show you the X and Y axis again. If you know this, you can kind of keep going, but X and Y axis. So over here, the plane is at 80, 100, 272, but up here it's at 624. So if it's less than 640 minus 40, which is 600, so if it's anywhere from here on, so all over this side, all over here, we'll let it move to the right. So we're saying if our plane is anywhere here, please let it move to the right until it comes to the point of 600. So if it gets there, don't let it move to the right anymore, because we don't want it to go out of our screen. So we've got, you need to have this variable x, room width minus 40, operation is smaller than, not larger than. And in jump to given position, all we need to do is take away that minus, take away the minus, and then we've got ourselves with a +4, which just means move 4 spaces to the right every time we click or hold down, the right keyboard button. And so then I guess we can test that. We just click on the green arrow for the play. And as you can see, our plane is animated, so it looks like it's flying. You can fly into the left and you can fly into the right, but it doesn't go out of the screen. So if you're doing this, as I am, you've completed this tutorial. Remember, you need to save your game and you need to move on to the next one. And what we're going to be doing in the next one is making it move up and down. So save your game and move on.